Mike Davies has injured his left arm bicep muscle at the distal portion, and in this video we would be looking at the exact mechanism through which Mike Davies has suffered this injury. And apart from that, we would also be discussing the treatment that Mike Davies would be undergoing, as Mike Davies was supposed to fight in UFC Denver, but after having this bicep tear, he would be out of UFC Denver. And Mike Davies has uploaded a sparring footage on his Instagram where he is grappling with another guy, and his arm was partially flexed, and at that moment when he was having isometric contraction, and an external force is trying to straighten that arm up while his arm was in isometric contraction. This has resulted in the tear of his distal bicep. And apart from that, a distal bicep injury is quite common in the combat sports athletes, and it is quite a common injury in the weightlifters that has the same exact mechanism of injury when they try to put the contraction in their bicep muscle while an external force is trying to straighten that arm up. So the bicep basically has had two heads. One head attaches to the coracoid process. It's a process of scapula, and the other head attaches to the labrum, the superior labrum. It's a spongy, it's a capsule that is surrounding our that is surrounding the glenoid cavity of scapula. And uh, during this, the mechanism through which Mike Davies has injured his bicep muscle, it's basically a distal injury. So bicep, as I have already told you, that it arises from the distal, it arises from the proximal end of the humerus near the scapula, from the scapula, from the coracoid process of scapula and the superior labrum, and then it attaches on the distal radius, a bone in our forearm, and it has two heads. And the main function of bicep muscle is to perform flexion at the elbow joint, and it's a major contributor of our forearm supination. And this mechanism through which Mike Davies has injured his distal bicep, it usually involves popping of the bicep muscle back toward the center of the arm. And because the tension between the two inserting points is lost, and so the bicep muscle moves towards the proximal, the shoulder, the near shoulder part of its attachment. And through this mechanism, Mike Davis has injured his bicep muscle when he was trying to, when an external force is being applied while the bicep muscle was isometrically contracted. And by isometrically contracted, I mean that the bicep is contracted while its length is not being increased, so it is squeezed in a tiny portion, and a lot of force is being created in it. And the treatment, as Mike Davis has written in his post, involves a surgical treatment. And with that injury, he would be out for some time. And usually what happens in the surgery, the surgeon usually sutures the distal portion, the portion near the elbow, and ties up across the elbow in a bone called radius, and through this mechanism the bicep muscle is being fixed at the radius insertion, and till then Mike Davies would not be able to compete in the professional competitions.